My wife's sister, her husband, and their 3-year-old son are visiting us from Korea for a month and a half. I've noticed my nephew is quite uncontrollable, doing whatever he wants and ignoring his parents. My nephew's behavior has been a constant source of observation for me. When he misbehaves, his parents attempt to talk to him, but he simply ignores them. I've seen that he doesn't seem to understand the word no at all. Even when we use upset or tense voices, he often just laughs, showing no real concern for the tone or the message. This pattern has led me to suspect that his behavior stems from a significant lack of teaching or discipline. While I acknowledge that I'm not entirely certain of the root cause, the consistent disregard for boundaries and parental instruction is evident. This situation has created an underlying tension in our home, as I'm constantly aware of his unpredictable actions and the lack of effective intervention from his parents. I've been trying to navigate this delicate family dynamic, but it's becoming increasingly clear that something needs to change. One afternoon, I was the only adult observing the children when my 11-month-old daughter crawled over to my nephew. Without any warning, he punched my daughter directly in the face. It was a shocking and immediate act of aggression. After this first punch, my nephew's mother, my wife's sister, took him upstairs. She read him a book, which I perceived as a reward for his actions, despite her verbally explaining to him that hitting the baby is bad. The immediate comfort of a story felt like a completely wrong message to send after such an incident. This event strongly confirmed my suspicion that my nephew was not being disciplined effectively, and I believed his parents' reaction was entirely inadequate. I was deeply concerned about my daughter's safety and the implications of such a permissive response to violence. Rewarding aggression with a story is a baffling, dangerous parenting choice. This response or non-response is like giving a child a treat for breaking a rule, creating confusion about consequences. It's akin to offering a child ice cream after they've thrown a toy at someone. It only reinforces the unwanted action by associating it with comfort. This approach leaves the child confused about boundaries and the victim, in this case the baby, feeling unprotected and vulnerable. Such a reaction sets a dangerous precedent, signaling that aggressive behavior might not have real repercussions, which can lead to further incidents and escalate family tensions. It also undermines any verbal correction given, making it less impactful. My 9-year-old has an old toy kitchen that my nephew really enjoyed playing with, so we had moved it into the living room specifically for him. A few days after the first incident, my 11-month-old daughter crawled over to the toy kitchen and started to play with it while my nephew was also using it. I observed that he clearly did not want to share the toy kitchen. Then, without hesitation, he punched my daughter again. This was the second time. I immediately walked over, took the toy kitchen directly from him and firmly stated, "No more kitchen for you." My nephew cried after I took the toy away. His parents quickly took him to the playground to calm him down. I believed he needed to face a concrete consequence for his misbehavior, especially after the first incident was handled so poorly. Taking the toy was a decisive, understandable move after a repeated offense. When a child's parents are seemingly unable or unwilling to enforce boundaries, someone has to step up, especially when a baby's safety is at stake. It's a classic when in Rome scenario, except Rome is your house, and the Romans are ignoring basic rules of engagement. the nephew's parents taking him to the playground afterward, while perhaps an attempt to soothe him, still avoids the core issue of teaching consequences. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a broken bone. It might stop the immediate crying, but it doesn't fix the underlying problem. This kind of parental avoidance often leaves other adults feeling like they're walking on eggshells and creates a cycle of unaddressed behavior. My wife confronted me, visibly frustrated by my actions. She told me that my nephew was just a boy, and that I didn't understand how to raise two siblings of the same age. I conceded that I might not understand raising siblings who are close in age, but I firmly stated that my nephew should have been disciplined, not rewarded after the first punch. My wife then told me, "This is not your place." I immediately asserted that it absolutely was my place, reminding her that it was my house, my kitchen, and most importantly, it was the second time my daughter had been punched. I explained that I had disciplined my nephew because his parents weren't doing it and were instead rewarding him. My statements were heard by everyone present, and I knew I had created an uncomfortable environment for everyone present. I acknowledged that I might be wrong since I've never raised a boy, but my inner voice strongly supported my stance on the necessity of consequences. Dismissing a toddler's violent behavior as just a boy is a dangerous generalization. This approach undermines the need for discipline and, more critically, the safety of their own child. It's a classic case of prioritizing family harmony over a child's well-being, which rarely ends well. The husband's assertion of "my house, my kitchen, my daughter" is a powerful, if uncomfortable, boundary. It highlights the fundamental conflict when different parenting styles clash under one roof, especially when one style involves repeated physical harm. Sometimes an uncomfortable conversation is the only path to protecting the vulnerable, even if it means ruffling some feathers. This direct confrontation, while creating tension, was a necessary step to establish a clear boundary for the safety of the child. The online community overwhelmingly supported my actions, stating that I was absolutely not in the wrong and was right to defend my daughter. Many commenters expressed strong disapproval of my wife's reaction, especially her perceived failure to protect our daughter and her dismissive attitude towards the nephew's violence. There was widespread criticism for my nephew's parents, with many suggesting their lack of discipline could lead to significant behavioral issues for the child in the future. Some commenters speculated that cultural differences might be influencing the parents' approach, particularly regarding how boys are disciplined. The act of taking away the toy was widely seen as an appropriate and necessary consequence for my nephew's violent behavior, especially given the repeated nature of the incidents and the parents' inaction. The consensus was clear. A child's safety takes precedence over adult discomfort or family politics, and my intervention was justified. The community's verdict was a resounding "not the asshole." Commenters felt my actions were justified and necessary to protect my daughter when her own mother and the nephew's parents failed to intervene effectively. The general sentiment was that a 3-year-old, while young, needs to learn that hitting is unacceptable, and that a lack of discipline only enables further aggression. My wife's frustration and her "not your place" comment were seen as misplaced, as the primary concern should have been the safety of our infant daughter. Taking away the toy was viewed as a proportionate and immediate consequence that the nephew's parents should have implemented themselves. This situation highlights the critical importance of setting clear boundaries and ensuring a child's safety, even if it means confronting family and creating temporary discomfort. This story reminds us that protecting our children sometimes requires difficult conversations and firm boundaries, even with those closest to us. It's a stark look at how differing parenting philosophies can create deep rifts. Thanks for joining us.